Hello there. Today I watched the new dramatic thriller The Marsh King's Daughter, and now I want to tell you about it. It follows a woman named Helena. She lived in the woods with her father and mother until her father went to prison. Helena moved on with her life and started a family only for her father to return and threaten everything that she's built. The story is based on a book of the same title by Karen Dion and was adapted into a screenplay by Mark L. Smith and L. Smith. The film was directed by Neil Berger and stars Brooklyn Prince as a young Helena, Daisy Ridley as an adult Helena, and Ben Mendelsohn as her father Jacob. The film features two timelines and two different versions of Helena. It starts with adult Helena in a dangerous situation and then flashes back to her childhood. We learn about her relationship with her father and see how their lives were out in the woods. This continues until her father goes away to prison, and then the story skips to Helena as an adult with a family of her own. We see how she's dealing with her past in the present day, and then we see her father escape custody. The film plays out a game of cat and mouse between Helena and her father, with him haunting her daily life and her trying to catch a glimpse of him. Then he leaves her an invitation to meet back where it all began, and she heads off to confront him. The cast is fairly small, with a couple of supporting characters and only a few extras. Most of the screen time is spent with Brooklyn Prince and Ben Mendelsohn at first. It then transitions to a period where Daisy Ridley gets most of the time, and then in the third act, Mendelsohn and Ridley share it. Helena and her family are messed up swamp people, but everyone else is playing a normal person going about their lives. They don't have much to do with the story beyond providing a bit of support. Brooklyn Prince and Daisy Ridley play the same character at two different stages of life. One is a wild child who idealizes her father, and the other is a paranoid adult trying to make sense of her childhood. Ben Mendelsohn as Jacob is a charismatic man who lives off the grid. He's a bit heartless in the way he raises his daughter, but he seems to love her more than anything. That said, there's a darkness hiding underneath that he occasionally lets slip to the surface. The visual journey has two parts: the time in the woods and their time in the city. In the woods, we see Jacob teach Helena to track and hunt, and we see a bit of their daily lives. It all takes place outside with a lot of scenic shots of the trees, a river, and a marshland. In the city, we see a basic office for Helena's work, another for her husband, and a lot of their rural home. It's a fairly basic looking house out in the country. During this section, they do some good tension building with Helena finding different signs of her father around. The end of the film returns to the woods and mirrors the start. Sound-wise, the film doesn't have much in the way of music. It mostly relies on ambient noise for about 75% of the film and only uses basic instrumentals during tense moments to try and amplify them. Alright, now that you know what it is, the story starts with a boring hook and doesn't get much better from there. It has a good premise at the heart of it, but it doesn't have compelling characters and there isn't a lot of action. It's also filled with little holes that don't make sense. For example, Helena manages to catch up to Jacob at one point even though he's a ways ahead and in a superior method of transportation. The film took a long time to get through a small amount of content by really milking the little moments, and it got boring quickly. Cast-wise, the film spends most of its time with three different actors and they do an okay job of telling the story. The supporting cast puts up some decent one-note characters around them too. Ben Mendelsohn, Gil Birmingham, and Brooklyn Prince even managed to pull off some good scenes. However, I felt like the acting and the emotion in the film were quite muted overall. Daisy Ridley especially felt wooden. She plays her character like someone trying to fit in and hiding their true personality. But when it comes time to open up and let loose, she doesn't have much to show. Her relationships with the other characters suffered from her lack of chemistry with the rest of the cast too. Visually, the film has a few nice outdoor locations to offer you and a bit of tension toward the end. But aside from that, the journey is quite milquetoast. The locations are basic, there's nothing energetic happening, and they don't actually focus on the characters' emotions that well. They look at them for a single glance and then the camera moves away. There were two scenes that mildly stood out, but one of them was a short 5-second shot of a car crash and the other was the final confrontation between Jacob and Helena. Both are over in seconds. Sound-wise, the film doesn't try to do much beyond building tension. It doesn't back the emotional moments and it doesn't use any music to flavor the atmosphere or to help build up the characters. The soundtrack basically doesn't exist. Overall, The Marsh King's Daughter is a one-note film without much flavor to it. It's kind of like biting into a piece of soggy bread that looks okay on the outside. The premise is kind of interesting and it starts off with a bit of mystery, but it quickly devolves into pointless games of cat and mouse with no sense of danger to them. I'd give the film a 2 out of 10. It's not worth seeing in my opinion. Remember, these are just my thoughts on the film. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Bye-bye!